You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Boardwalk Empire After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Boardwalk Empire After Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV Boardwalk Empire Edition, Season 4, Episode 8, Old Ship of Zion. I'm your host, Keven Undergaro, and I am ably being assisted today by the one, the only, our rookie, who just
I'm not the rookie.
Yeah, you are a rookie.
I'm the rookie on Boardwalk, perhaps.
You are the rookie. You know why I know you're the rookie? Because you're talking over your mic.
I'm sorry.
To the end of your mic. But the incredible, the beautiful, the talented Miss Sara Stretton.
Hello, everybody.
But can I say rookie? If you were a rookie, you'd be rookie of the year, maybe even MVP.
Yes.
Because you are
I don't
really.
think I've ever been MVP.
This is a tough show to do, and you're an amazing addition. And you know what? Why we know this? All our fans love you. Phil gets emails all the time. Okay, another totally amazing, stupendous episode of Boardwalk.
I feel like this episode was one of your favorite episodes, based on the fact that throughout the whole thing you were so hyper.
I always am.
No, this week in particular, I think you had more, I guess, visceral.
Can I tell you why?
reactions.
Can I tell you why? Because it when we have the big group watching, I get a little more shy. So it was just me. It was just us, and that's why I was.
It wasn't because this episode was like
No,
solely
this was
focused on your two favorite characters. I feel like
You're
besides
right.
Richard. If Richard was in this episode,
Oh, forget it.
I think
they would have had to take me away.
Yeah.
No, Nucky is and Chalky is just my favorite characters, and I was really nervous about Chalky as it progressed, and particularly seeing his wardrobe changes. I was like, no, do not kill my favorite guy and favorite character. But anyway, yeah, I love all of the episodes on this show. I think my favorite was the finale last year.
Okay.
Was my favorite. But anyway, I'm just excited to get into this.
Get into this one.
Do you want to start with the funeral?
I want to go all the way to funeral. So are we going to start in like the world of Chalky White?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. So funeral, we open up with Daughter Maitland singing another song.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. So if I
three.
Yeah, 3. And this, if there's one knock that I've ever had on this series, and this is literally the only knock. Oh, by the way, the reason I was so excited from the beginning was Tim Van Patten directed it, and he's my favorite director of the series.
Okay.
So I knew it was going to be big, but this is just a slight knock, and I can live with it. But I think that the singing numbers of Daughter Maitland run a little long, and there are too many. And although I will say the last one, where she did a cappella with Chalky, was beautiful, and it did mean something to the scene. It added to the mood, and I was okay with that.
That's where like I find acceptance of all of her songs, is because I really can see the connection that the songs and the lyrics and the mood of her singing does for the show. And like she had 3 songs this episode, one of which was Nucky and Chalky kind of overheard, and she's in the background. It's about the blues. I felt like it was giving ammo to that scene because she was the underlying, the elephant of the room. She was all the subtext of that conversation.
Totally,
and so the fact
totally
that she
was.
in the background, I liked.
She was. It just they run a little long for me. That's what I'm
true.
saying. They all the show is just so amazingly written. Fires on all cylinders, but I just feel they're a little long. And again, listen, fans, I'm fine with it. Please, to me, this is such a beautiful work that I'm not complaining. I'm just noting.
Okay.
I'm just noting.
You're noting, then I'm going to analyze her songs.
Okay, good.
So we got the background one. We have in the church, what I loved was she was singing the Old Ship of Zion, but it seemed like a revised version. And the main lyrics that we caught from her while she was singing it was something about I was lost, and then saying follow me. And then later we also sing. She sings the original or the old lyrics to Chalky, and the disposition of the first one is very aimed and controlled by the power of Dr. Narcisse.
Yes.
Like she is singing it for
it's
him.
It's the pasteurized version.
She's being his tool to herd these sheep, to be their leader into following him. And then later, when she's singing it to Chalky, that song is really for Chalky. And then I think that's what creates their bond, and it's in that moment.
Agreed. And I believe the one Chalky wanted was the more pure and biblical version, whereas Narcisse's, it's his reinvention, right? His twisted reinvention, all for his whatever is coming out of his psychosis, which of course we'll talk about during the play that we get to see. But agreed. And I thought the last time she sang was beautiful and meaningful and poignant. Let's talk about the funeral.
Okay.
So we've got the mayor there, and he stands out clear as day.
Token white boy.
And the look from when he says, we have all the other people who are speaking freely during the service, saying, the people in the pews saying,
amen,
amen.
Hallelujah.
And then just when it's really quiet, you just hear this loud, amen,
or something.
It was amen, I think, but it just didn't fit like the other ones. It was not natural.
There was no acceptance for him coming to mourn. It was purely like, you're not supposed to be here, from Dr. Narcisse.
And the look was, get out of here.
And then we get the other looks coming from Chalky's wife and all the other people in the church staring at Chalky.
Well, for two different reasons. Wife is staring because there's more going on. You are looking lustfully at this.
She's even crying.
She sees the connection. The rest of the people are looking at it as though this is supposed to be your neighborhood, Mr. White, and why is one of our beloved own deacons being murdered in his own church? Why are you letting that go, or are you behind it?
So much there. I mean, and you see him realize that he's losing control of his community. Even the fact that they put Dr. Narcisse in the front row of the pews, and then he's behind, and you can just see like he's being pushed back. And
you see Dr. Narcisse with his arm around, consoling as if these are his flock, and he's consoling the people. Wait, who are you? They're my neighbor. These are my people. Like, you're up from Harlem. What are you doing? So yeah.
And side note, one thing I did notice in this film, or in this episode, I just called it film because it's created so much like it's a giant movie. But we did notice that he seemed to be wearing a wedding ring in this scene, and I was a little confused by that. We've had no mention of kind of his outside life or who he's romantically involved in. We know that his first name is Valentine, so I think there has to be some level of like love in his character, and I think that also ties into the play and his relationship with Daughter of the Maitland.
We will get there.
I'm sorry.
But no. But by the way, no, you were the one that flagged the wedding ring, and just again, this is why we love you. I wouldn't have. I
noticed the jewelry. That's why. That's why.
No, come on. Moving on to. Okay, again, just like I love how this show took us and showed us 1920s college life, which. It was fun to see because it was eerily similar to today's college life, and I love these parallels, and I love how they give us the opportunity to time travel to see just, beyond the guns and the Capone stuff, like to see what life was like then. And, fans, it's a lot of money to do this stuff.
Yes.
And, I'm so grateful because with the amount of production out there and the amount of piracy, we don't have the money we used to. And it's fewer and far between. So I'm always just so grateful when I'm able to see, like John Adams, did it, but seeing it on this show week in week out, and I love seeing what a 20s crack house looked like. Far different than today's, if you notice, right? It's not as out of control.
It was very neat, and there was even a comment to it that she likes things kept tidy. As messy as the people are getting themselves, the house at least needs to be clean and everything in order.
And do you think that contradiction is subliminally speaks to the same contradiction of Narcisse and the contradiction that Ebony was talking about, where it's, I'm going to sell drugs to my community, but then I'm going to take that money and do charity work with it or uplift my people.
Completely. It's this whole issue of people appearing perfect and presentation, and it's how you speak, how you make people think you are, versus really how messed up you are on the inside and mentally and physically, but how you can fool people. Just fool them by simple looks. And then you have Chalky on the other hand, who is pretty straightforward. He has the big scar across his face. He is who he is.
Right.
But he's kind of run by a more clear sense.
Right. He's again, that's why he wanted the song sung in the way he did, and we have so much to talk about with Chalky. But it was, to me, this is almost like the early stages of what a crack house looked like then. I mean, we know crack dens today are in bombed out buildings. They're, but to watch it back then, it was interesting. It was very almost brothel-like, and it was more people just sleeping, and it just seemed almost like it almost seemed like a spa.
Relaxation, very relaxed,
right? People
until it becomes overthrown.
Well, and what even before that, when it becomes such an epidemic, then it no longer, it can't be sustained in that way, because it's not like alcohol that unless you're an alcoholic you can control it, you can grow out of it. But we know statistically with heroin, I think it's something like less than 7% of people who get on it can get off.
Yeah.
And and it takes away your soul. And I've dealt with those people, working in the carny business, and the ones that are very deeply addicted, they don't care. It's not like they're unethical, but you could be on fire, and if you being on fire is somehow going to help them get their high, then they're okay with it. It's crazy. And it's just interesting that Narcisse, who, as you said, comes off as so articulate, and he's there to uplift his people and whatnot, he's fueling the very thing that is going to destroy the soul of his people.
Exactly.
And moving on to the play.
I love the play.
The play was amazing.
The play is probably one of my favorite moments in this entire episode. Just because it's so easily missed, because we've heard so little about this story, and we've talked about it, so we understood that daughter Maitland became kind of like a daughter to Narcisse after he killed her mother, and after he slept with her because she was a prostitute. And then we watch this play, and it's from totally his point
his
of
twisted
view,
perspective,
where she needs to give him this baby because this baby is going to lead everyone, and then she kills herself, and it's like a sacrifice, and he's saying how he has this new leader and how he saved the world, and it's just totally his perspective on on their history,
right?
And
and what he thinks of women.
It just gave me such chills.
like she had to die, and for the greater good, and she clearly wasn't capable of raising this child. And the greater good was to kill herself so that this amazing man could come in and raise the baby. What I found so interesting was watching Dr. Narcisse during this, crying, reciting the words. And to me, now that's the first crack in his foundation. To me, at least my first glimpse into weakness, because he's showing such emotion. And he's so twisted. So he's not all by the book and by the numbers and ruled by business.
He has a faith in this relationship. He has a faith in...
Twisted
faith in
his and also his belief system and his psychosis. And he's sharing it with everybody. And you see the mixed reaction, when it ends, it's like the smattering of applause, just that kind of, couple here and there. But I loved that, these are scenes of pity and terror.
Yep.
I just think of the darkness in his soul.
He's crazy. And then to have been so, they say the stage is a place for vulnerability and where you can really tell your stories, and that's the point. It's like to reveal, to share with people, and to have him have told one of his stories, and then to be disrupted by Chalky with that scene, and then he says that's his performance. outside.
So now, well, you know what I left out? I'm sorry. I left out the barbershop.
Oh, we did talk. Yes.
So the barbershop, if you guys get to watch this again, the shot where Dunn first sees Chalky in all those mirrors, to me, it was like, wow, the power of Chalky. You had like 5 Chalkies, however many, and he's in the dark suit. No more in what I call the clown suit, like the nouveau riche suit. He's
very sharp.
Much more conservative, much more in control of his game.
Bright white collar, everything.
Mm-hmm. And he's looking Dunn up and down, and he's calling him Buck. But and go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say, we've seen him in the past call him Sweetback, and now switching over to Buck, and then also to be specifically in that chair, and to say at the end,
on his throne,
and take it over and put him back in his place. Remember, and not have to tell him where they're going or what they're doing, because he's supposed to work for him and he doesn't need to be in the know. He just needs to follow.
And in the previous scene, we see Dunn making a pickup, and he's working it. He's becoming, he's having his little rise to power, becoming a mob boss himself. And I love seeing Chalky back in power, but also not in clown power. The dark suit up in the not the barber chair, but it's probably a shoe shine chair.
Yeah, it was a shoe shine chair.
And seeing him up so high.
We've seen Dunn in before.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. That's right.
That
When
Jillian
came
and it was the angle up from the shoes, looking up at him, and this one's just straight on of Chalky in that chair.
And that's why I gave you the Goodfellas quote. I looked at you, Sarah, and said, "No more big shot. No more big shot." Okay, so and then they're off back to the crack house, and Nucky cleans house there, and before.
Was it House of Trouble?
House of Trouble. Mm-hmm. And before anything can happen, before they can get this other guy to spill his beans, of course, Dunn astutely blows his head off.
Which was pretty smart of Dunn.
Yeah.
I mean, violent of Dunn, but at least he gained a little bit of brains and tried to cover his bases. Of course, this leads to the flyer, which leads to them going to this play, because Chalky's... in this episode, he got, in the church... This community no longer is behind me. This is no longer my community. I have to figure out what's going on. Then he starts making action right away. Gets the flyer, keeps going. He was very... The reason he came out on top is because he went for it this episode. He went back into the community and started doing things himself.
Right. Rolled his sleeves up. And, he knew he was losing control of it. And we'll talk about his little meeting with Nucky. But going back to the play, I loved finally Narcisse. He gets pissed on a little bit. He's been the one just kind of dominating every, the last, say, 8 weeks. And finally, Chalky, this classy, this performance that just seems so hoity-toity. And then it's just the banging, and like you had mentioned, a trash can. Shows up with his boys. What concerned me is he was back in one of his monkey suits.
What also concerned me is that last shot where we got Dr. Narcisse behind the smoke and the flames being angry, and to me it just...
Right. To me...
there was a darkness and like a powerful darkness.
He's the devil. Right.
Exactly.
You messed with the devil. And by the way, please, when I say monkey suit, it's actually a term. It's not racial. It's a term for the zoot suits, the cat suits. It's a sillier outfit.
We're not trying to disrespect anyone.
No, Chalky's my favorite character. But when I saw him back, in that, I said, "Oh boy, this is the battle between these two." And to me, seeing Narcisse in the dark suit, and he
was scarier.
Yes, and for Chalky to have won this little battle by raining on his play, I said, "Oh boy, he's going to pay." To have insulted Narcisse during his creation, this play, and this is his world, his life. This is what he's been living for, right? His whole existence. He's had daughter Maitland for probably 18 or 20 years. And for Nucky basically to come and just piss on that, he's earned it
For
now.
Nucky or Chalky?
Excuse me, for Chalky to come and
We do need to talk about Nucky
we'll get
and
there.
Chalky a little
We'll
bit,
get
though.
there.
Okay.
But when I saw that, I said, "Oh no. You we're in trouble." And I say we because I love Chalky so much. When Nucky and Chalky do get together, Nucky, by the way, how great is their relationship?
I love it.
Right?
Almost every single moment of that scene was great. From the very beginning of I'm busy or whatever, and he just walks in, and then he's like, "Oh, but basically you're welcome. It doesn't matter how busy I am. You're always welcome." And then to progress to Nucky saying, "I'm giving you advice as a friend. We're just friends talking." And the fact that Nucky can also tell that Chalky's occupied by the singer right away, but they talk to each other with such respect and such a knowledge of each other's business. I love it. I just feel like they get each other.
Yeah, you feel, when he first came in, and do you feel like when Chalky says to him, "You can have whatever you want," is it because Chalky's saying, "You own the place, I don't really have a say in it," or is he saying, "Come on, we're partners"? What is it?
I felt like it was much more of a friendship,
Okay.
respect, and I think that Chalky does have a kind of a gratitude towards Nucky. It's not if you take Chalky as the boss or was the boss of Dunn, and Nucky has always been the boss of Chalky. But Chalky in a way is thankful. He's respectful. He is trying to learn from Nucky. Dunn was always resentful about how he basically was under Chalky.
Right.
He was always resentful about how he came to work for him. He wasn't thankful for the opportunities. He wasn't encouraged or interested. He was always just kind of bitter. Chalky keeps growing and keeps getting bigger investments because he's trying to learn from Nucky and because they have such a good relationship.
And Nucky at the end of the last season, he said partners. And I also think that, without jumping ahead to Chalky, but when Chalky tells the mayor, "Take it up with Chalky," I think that's a sign of respect for Chalky as well. I'm not going to go and yell at Chalky. Yeah, you need to. That's right.
Powerful guy.
He's a powerful guy.
You should know
You're
him.
the mayor. Suck his ass. And get it. That's not on me. That's on you, buddy.
It's totally a sign of respect.
And I think that's a sign of respect. I also thought it was interesting when Chalky was in the crack house. I feel like he knew that it was not just power, that he was losing power in the neighborhood. I think he knew that was poison. And when he opened the bag and there's just a little money in there and the drugs, it seemed like he was far less concerned with the money, and he was much more into the principle and
dealings.
Right, and really knowing that this is ruining his community. And I think that's why I stand by my prediction. I feel like the show loves Nucky and they won't get rid of him. Chalky, but I feel like he does have a moral compass. He has got some moral compass, and I think that's why ultimately he will triumph.
Okay.
Ultimately,
Does this mean we get to go ahead to the final scene?
No, because we still have to talk about. We still have to get to when Nucky and Chalky are together, he says, keep your, what was it? I thought it was keep your life in order, but you astutely pointed out.
I think I might be wrong. I think you're right.
I think you're right.
Keep your life in hand or something. Your life in order. Your life.
Something like that.
Don't let your life get out of hand.
Yes. And you thought it was don't let your knife.
I heard don't get your knife out of hand.
And I believe you're right.
But Mike August, who does our Crush of the Week, I was reading them before this episode. He also thought it was life. So if you thought that and he thought that, Mike August is almost always right.
No. Listen to me. Here's why I think it's knife. Because that's how the deacon got killed. I think
that's how the deacon got killed.
It's speaking on the surface. It's speaking to the actual your knife guys who are out there knifing people. Keep them in order. But the subtext you see throughout this, when you get to Sally Mae, it's sharp objects and it's this and it's that, and then we see there's more sharp objects, and we see what happens with Dunn and Chalky. So I tend to think you're right. Anyway, bottom line is, Nucky knows that he's getting soft for the female. And why would Nucky know that? Because Nucky's done that himself on so many occasions.
Fault in the two of them.
And anyway, a great exchange. They're both in tuxes, both looking, awesome. I love that scene. And of course, we move on to Narcisse visiting daughter Maitland and basically saying to her, I get sad when you're melancholy because then I think I have failed. And blah, blah, blah.
And showing more of his weakness.
Yes.
That her emotional state is important to him and that it affects his mood.
Do you know why I think?
Because he loves her. I don't know why.
I mean, well, I think his type of love is possession, which is not love. But I think it's because he thinks he's God and that's his creation.
And he thinks that he's trying to
He's
mold
failed
her.
He's failed as a
trying
god.
to mold her to get everyone else to follow him.
Yeah.
She's his
example.
Exactly. And if she fails,
he's failed. So keep him long, a visitor will come. And she sings the song to him, and
through that song, they fall in love.
Yes, and you see Chalky crying, amazing actor, and I'm feeling it in the scene, and then Dunn appears, and I said, oh, and that's when you saw me really go crazy, because I was like, no, because I saw Chalky in the suit that last scene, the previous scene, and I was like, no, he's gonna pay, and then of course, he's about to, well, just when you think he's gonna get in the car and go with Dunn and go down and handle Narcisse, you just see how smart he is, how smart Chalky is to go, no, this is just too neat. This is
and
just
to be like, what did he say? Something about, it's the line that he turns it and he goes, and what was he paying you?
Yeah.
He's like, you've left this part out. That was a great moment. And from opening up of him being so alone and having that, and then going into this argument and then this fantastic fight scene. I thought the fight scene was great.
Amazing. And I think they were doing their stunts. It seemed like it. For some of the stuff, I mean, them rolling around on the carpet, it looked like it was them.
I agree.
Which is pretty.
Like, no, and it was just very intense. It felt very real. Putting that stake through his cheek.
The shard of glass, or wasn't it?
It was like I think it was a shard of the door frame.
Gotcha.
I'm not really sure, but.
Right.
And for me, it was a flashback to the first time he kind of kicked his face in or had his face kicked in. And then again to go for his face and to go more specifically for his mouth, being that he's always has that grin on him. He's always grinning with his gold tooth, and it's all these lies and betrayals that he's been speaking. And then to take that stake and go through his mouth, and then obviously in the very end, it ends up Chalky needs some help. As
he's being strangled. You know, Chalky, we know is a former boxer, but he's older, and we know that Dunn is
and he already has
bigger.
talked about being tired out.
Yeah, interesting. Both our women in this episode have tired their men out. Well, you know, when we get to Sally Mae, we'll get there. But he has the upper hand, and at that point, I knew that daughter Maitland was going to come through for us. I don't know why. I had a feeling that she was going to save us, and she did. And it's great because Dunn, you can tell he's had dealings with her because he's like, why? You know, we had this all worked out. But
she found love.
She found love.
Which goes back to Dr. Narcisse, Dr. Valentin Narcisse. His Achilles heel is going to be the love that he had for her, and then she betrays him. Because he controlled two of the people in that room at that moment, and then he lost one of them. And it's very funny because they both lost opposite people.
Interesting. Great scene.
Interesting.
Moving on to Knox, a.k.a. Jim, Agent Jim from the FBI, and his meeting with his team, and he hammers them. You think this is a joke, and you know, once again we see that Frankenheimer shot that we saw with Dunn as he went into the crack house, and then we see it as Knox addresses the table. That's, you know, seeing the back of the head, and Mr. Van Patten loves that shot, and so do I. But you know, we see him just, again, not playing around.
Well, I'm going to even go more into that joke because this is probably going to be like my prediction of the day. So don't keep from prediction music or anything, but this is my prediction. What they're talking about is the fact that Rothstein put down $100,000 and ended up losing $500,000 and then going to go eat cheesecake. Last episode, I think it was, or the episode before, was when we saw AR going by a different name, and running into Margaret. Right. So this is 2 episodes in a row. Actually, maybe even 3 episodes in a row because he had that horrible gambling spill with Nucky, where he's been losing. He's losing constantly, and he's playing it off as everything's fine. He's playing it off by eating cheesecake.
Right.
He was playing it off with Margaret by passing her a $100 bill and saying it would be both in our best interest. I think that they're trying to show us that he's bluffing, and he is not doing well.
Yeah, and I think you're right.
He's losing this game. So I think we're slowly being positioned to see AR's downfall.
His downfall.
Because we know he had all this money, and I think it would be impossible for him to lose it all in one sitting.
Right.
So they're showing us that he is losing it slowly but surely.
Good pickup.
And on top of that, the fact that everyone else thinks it's funny, but there's one person who's like, this is not a joke. It's the same reason. It's because, like, these aren't all losses. These aren't all funny. Like, this is the real deal with AR. He's
Right.
losing. It's like Jim's point of view was that this is a meeting. We shouldn't be talking about bluffing or games. Like, this is supposed to be making real context. But I think the subtext of that was that's a serious issue going on.
Right, and you're missing that.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Because we know him as much as he appears to be super cop, we know that he's twisted and has his shortcomings as well. They find out about the what happened with Willie and Clayton, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna see Clayton again. I'm so excited.
So excited about Clayton. Did you find it interesting? They also mentioned in this conversation that they're making these connections, but they didn't have a law to go by. There was a line in there that was like, well, where's the law? And they're like, well, find the crooks or find the problem, and then we'll make the law.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was
How it
more of
goes.
like, Jim, or whatever his real name is, we've been creeped out from him from the beginning. And he really is becoming a crook. If you define what a crook is, it's someone who doesn't play by the rules.
Yep.
It's someone who, like, blackmails or puts people's lives in jeopardy, and, like, he's just constantly doing that. He's being a bully. He's not going by any guidelines. He's operating on his own agenda. That is what a crook is. He's becoming who he's looking for.
I was having this conversation with someone else. You know, when the government, I'm a believer that when the government wants you, they're going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And because I just seen Killing Kennedy, and Rob Lowe like crushed it as John F. Kennedy. Amazing job. But because Bill O'Reilly produced it, it was a right-wing version of Lee Harvey just operated on just purely on his own. He kills Kennedy, and Jack Ruby kills him because he's a fan of the Kennedys.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, JFK made a lot of waves, and you know he just had to go. And I think that oftentimes, you know, when you deal with police, one thing you have to keep in mind is that they are there to enforce the law. They're not there to necessarily to be your friend. You want to think they're there to protect you, but that's how they get paid, is to make arrests. And oftentimes, all the mobsters will tell you that they do underhanded stuff to get what they need. And I think that the end does justify the means in a lot of cases, because, you know, you want criminals to be put in jail, but I wouldn't argue with the fact that
Sometimes it's not.
they go underhanded. Yeah, no, they so I'm buying everything this guy's doing. I'm buying it all because it just seems like that's how it goes.
And I mean,
that's
the
what I
police
hear.
working for in their reputation, so it's easy to buy
Yeah.
that there's corruption involved. What?
And for 3 Chesterfield, and by the way, what a great. Now, if you go back to when we first met Clayton, I believe it was like he smoked Lucky Strikes, and he offered someone a Lucky Strike or something like that.
Something.
So it's just such great writing that they would bring it. They would keep, you know, a small detail like that they would bring it back, you know, however episodes later. And I don't, if it was Lucky's, it means that Knox is giving him almost what he wants, but not quite, which is interesting. Or if it was the Chesterfields, then he's giving him exactly what he wants and to get what he needs. We'll see how that plays out. But I'm hoping we see more of Clayton.
I think we will, or at least mention of him. But I thought it was interesting. I can't remember if it was right before or right after, but I think that the scene we got between Knox and Clayton was, I think it was directly after a shot of Willie. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that. But I liked how they pointed out that he was changing friends, basically. Like, Willie had been his initial best friend, and it's now Knox is kind of stepping up into that place.
Yeah. Oh, he'll be an amazing best friend. He'll be such a good best friend. So Sally Mae comes and surprises Nucky.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ooh, before we leave the meeting, I'm sorry, I have one
go
more
ahead. No,
thing.
okay, please.
Also, there was one other moment I really liked in the meeting where one of the guys, they're talking about the antidote, and he talked about the whole story of Clayton and Willie and Nucky and the DA or whatever in one sentence. And it was basically, well, Nucky drove up, in 35 minutes he talked to the DA, and then when he left, some other boy was in jail. Like, and it was just, to me, it just compacted like Nucky's power on how quickly and how precise he can get something done because he has that much influence. It doesn't take a lot of work. It doesn't take this huge, long story.
No.
The gist of it is Nucky walked in, talked to someone for 35 minutes, and guess what? Someone else is in jail. All done.
So amazing. When Sally Mae comes up, this is one of my favorite female characters on the show because some of the other ones that are powerful or it seems like they're trying to show their greatness or their power. This one, it just seems like it's coming off in such an organic way. I totally buy her.
Oh, I do too. Especially because I feel like what she really has is not a motivation to get somewhere or to get something. Like a lot of the other characters, their power is driven by they want to have money or to have this kid or to have drugs or whatever. Hers comes from she wants to be Sally and she wants what she does to kind of, it's motivated by who she is as a person.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like when she goes up and she goes, I didn't really think about it. And she was like, what does Sally as a woman want? And when Nucky wasn't giving her the hello right away, she was like, okay, this isn't what I want. And then when he finally steps up, she was like, nope, too late. Now we're going to talk about business because that's what you thought we were going to talk about. Like she's so quick to be like, this is what I want. Okay, you didn't give it to me. Then this is what I'm going to do. Like it's always, but it's really motivated by her.
She's the boss. And poor Mickey Doyle, he's so cocky with Eddie's cane, such sacrilege, you know, and Eddie, who used that cane to walk.
And to support and to be the support of Nucky.
Right, and we see
a toy.
This guy, it's a toy. It's again, that nouveau riche flashy bullshit rather than the practicality. And we see how quickly he's struck back down by that same cane. And Nucky taking it back. And boy, do you see how he went back to being the frightened Mickey Doyle, not the, you know.
It was also like, you got to get a clue. But they did also position the other half of him earlier in the episode when they're talking with Eli and Nucky in the storage room before the shipment shows up, where he's telling some story and they're like, why are you talking? And he's like, well, you guys never really talk. And it did, for me, it brought out you're right. If we didn't have Mickey there, we could just sit in silence for a whole
and
episode.
Again, Sarah, what is the subtext of that line?
That there's a problem.
Between Eli and Nucky. You guys don't talk. And as we see in the end of the episode, which we'll talk about, we see that there's real strain with their relationship, and I think I'll predict what I think what's going to happen, but we'll get there. But we see with the Sally Mae, he's falling for her, but I think she's going to be okay for him. I don't think she's like a Jillian. Do you?
I'm one.
Well, she's going to poison him. Poison his life.
I don't know. I think it was interesting because a little later on, I'm skipping over a little bit of the Nucky and Willie stuff, but we got a meal at a table between Willie, Nucky, and Sally. And to me, it was like, in Nucky's mind, this is kind of like his little family table eating breakfast. He's giving advice, he's doing all this, he's a family man, and he's in the position of power. But then you really look at it, and they are going to be a messed up family. So something's going to go wrong.
Right.
Like, it seemed kind of all hunky-dory, all good, but you know their characters so well, and you know everything else that's going on, that can't really work.
No.
So I think it's like Nucky has put himself in this position where I think he likes having Willie as a
You said that.
as a sort of son. Like, he says it in the episode that he doesn't like him being there, but he also says he does refer to the Albatross Hotel as a home.
Mm-hmm.
And Eli points out, oh, you don't live in a home, you live in a hotel. And he's like, I don't want to argue about it. I don't like this. That's all fake. I think he does see it as a home. He does see it as, he likes Willie. And that's even proven by the fact that he gives him the book. The book, and
Ragged Dick.
Ragged Dick, and I believe I'll get into it because it's in one of Mike August's notes what the theme of that is, but it's something about morality and hard work is like the main theme. Like, you need to have morals and standards. That's him passing the torch. That's
the Nucky Dianetics. You know what? We have to read this book too.
Do we have to read this book?
I think we should for our
Will
lives.
we
Don't you
become
want to
better
be like
people?
Nucky?
Yeah, I have to finish my first book, the book that I'm on right now.
Okay.
I always have a book, but it can be the next on my
I'll
list.
read it for us. I think you're right about the Willie thing, and again, I always go by the subtext of these lines. And when he walks up to the bar, and he says,
I'm reading the psychopath test. Maybe it will get me some information on Knox
and Narcisse.
and Narcisse.
You
I'm
too.
trying to learn.
But he said, you know what I like, and he says, the bartender says, I got that 20-year-old where no one touch, or something like that.
About the alcohol.
Yes, and I took that as a reference to Willie.
And I think there's truth
You know what
in
I
that.
like? It's 20, like, because Willie's in a place where nobody can touch him.
And it's like, we were talking about this a little bit as
Except
as
Nucky.
the show's going on. And it's when the scene we're talking about for this line is earlier when Sally and Nucky are in the bar and he asks for the alcohol. But writers have the choice on what years to use, what exact wording. The fact that they said 20, where no one can touch it, all the specificity. I can't say that word right now.
Specificity.
Thank you. I think you're right that does refer to Willie. Because they make all those choices. Now it makes good writing.
And we know that Sid, the replacement of Eddie, is completely lame and inept. We saw it last week. We see there's no groceries, and again, a line from Nucky with that to me reeks of subtext is, I'm low on everything. Right, we're low on everything right now. Speaking about the groceries, but we know Sid is lame.
Yes.
And
it's not working out.
I believe that Willie is going to be a great replacement for Eddie.
Well, he's not really putting him in the place of Eddie. He
But I
kind
think
of positioned him to work for
in the mayor's
Ed.
office.
Political track.
True. I just wonder I feel like that's what's going to happen, though, at some point.
If it gets that far.
You're right. No, if he doesn't. Yeah, because the worst could happen.
We've got Eli in the other corner.
Okay.
Are we going to talk a little bit about that?
I also, let me finish. I like when Nucky said with the jam that Willie's in, okay, how do you turn this into an opportunity? And
key moment.
Right. But also, like, stepping away from our analysis of the show, that's just such great advice. Like, if all of us could look at our problems that way and go, okay, how do I turn this into a positive? How do I turn it into an opportunity? Just great advice. But, anyway, I don't want to get off on that.
No, you should, because it's a good point. It's a constant we see with Nucky is that he takes every hand he's dealt and tries to find the silver lining or how to turn it around. And he says it's all about moving forward, turning into opportunity. And this is, in essence, who he is. In addition to the book, you combine those two and you've got almost the entire character of Nucky.
Right.
You just need to add a woman in there and you're good.
Okay, so let's go quickly because I know we're running out of time. Let's go to Knox and Eli.
Eli meeting?
Yes.
Such a telltale meeting.
Right.
Well, what I got most out of it is I'm going to start a little with the end of this conversation. The end of this conversation is he says, you give me one nod and that you're going to tell me Nucky and all of his associates and your boy will be safe. He's like, one nod. And then we don't get to see the nod.
Nope.
But what we have seen is constantly in this conversation, Eli resists but gives in. So it will be a very big surprise if he doesn't give in based on the rest of that conversation he had. From the moment he sits down, this other agent comes in, he's trying to push him. You see him sitting there shaking, trying to just muscle his way, staying in this booth. But he slides over. Then he has like a fork and he's about to stab him, but he puts it down. It's constantly like he's fighting, but he gives in. And I think that's going to be the story of their relationship, is that he kind of fought it, but he's going to give in.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he's dropped off by, I think clearly he's at this point given in. I think he hugs Willie. They're singing, as you said, the annoying song, and it was annoying.
The spearmint, whatever it was.
But it's really sad because I think we're going to once again. I hate when Nucky and Eli don't get along. I like when they are brothers and they get along. Last year, I thought when they came back together, it was beautiful. But man, Eli, he gets drunk and he gets angry and resentful of Nucky, and he feels that Nucky is, he's always been a Nucky shadow, but now don't get in the way of my family. And now with his relationship with Will, and then him hearing that he got free liquor and that Nucky went down and squashed it all.
We knew he was going to find out.
And on the one hand, you wish he would think to himself, I can see where my kid was nervous, didn't want to call me because he knew I'd kill him. And so, he called Nucky, and then Nucky went down and fixed it, which was in the bet. I know, you're shaking your head. No, I know. I say, wish he thought this.
Yeah.
Because I could follow that line of thinking.
But he doesn't.
No. And when he hugs Will, I feel the hug with Will is genuine. It's like, I love you, son. You're just a victim. But Nucky, like, we're back. Do you think they're back to square one, enemies?
I think they're pretty much enemies. I think that it was such salt on the wound when he walked in and Willie turns to Nucky for the nod before the apology. And Nucky's like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, my God.
And watching
Huge.
Eli, knowing that Eli saw that. And then
good.
Also, so Nucky is the one who pushes Willie or allows him to make that decision to apologize.
Yep.
Even in this room. Then Eli's put up with the decision to accept the apology.
Right.
And he looks at every other family member except for Nucky. He looks at his wife. He looks at the kids on the floor. He looks at everyone else.
Oh, he's a huge family man, so he's never going to turn on them.
He looks at everyone, and then he goes, oh, yeah, no, of course, and they hug. But to watch Willie only look at Nucky while his whole family's in the room, and then to watch Eli look at the whole family, but not Nucky.
Our fans have been always predicting that it's going to be a showdown between Doyle and Eli, and I never agreed with that. I think it's Nucky and Eli based on Willie, and I think that either Eli or Willie is going to lose their life for the cause for within all this. And
I think that we're seeing even now this is going to be a fight, but like you said, I think the key is going to be Willie.
Or unless Eli has that moment where he feels like the greater evil is Knox and kills Knox. I don't know. It's going to get ugly. And
sorry, I'm going to kind of cut you off.
No, of course.
Sorry. So this is the thing, is that Nucky, the one instruction he gave Willie is that he wants him to keep his eyes and ears open. And if that's his job, he's going to have to make a choice. He's going to have to make a choice. He's going to hear something, and he's going to have to know whether to tell Nucky. And I'm guessing it's going to be eventually about Eli. But the thing is, he didn't put him in his position of, like, you're the labor. You're the guy who has to go out and kill people, like Mueller is right now. No. He's not in the position where he's going to be carrying the weapon. He's not going to have to, like, murder anyone, but he is going to be...
He's going to be in.
He's going to be the witness.
Consigliere, as we say. He's being groomed for white-collar work with Nucky.
But he's going to be the choice. He's going to be the reveal between Nucky and Eli. That's my prediction, at least.
And
we'll see.
Yeah, it's... would we say here that after this episode... Well, I'll tell you. After this episode, I conclude that Knox is the greater villain and more powerful villain than Narcisse. What do you think?
I think as a person, if I was stuck in, like, a room of 5
Who would you want to fight?
Okay, if I was stuck in a room of 5 people, then Narcisse is the bigger threat. Because I think he could turn the other 3 people really quick.
Yep.
But if you're in the room of 50,000 people, Knox is the one who's going to plant seeds everywhere that are going to spread and make all these other problems.
So he's the greater villain.
So I think he's the greater villain in the big picture.
Gotcha. Okay. We should go to Catches of the Week, and we'll do really quick predictions.
Okay. So, guys, you're going to have to bear with me because Mike August is the best, and I have his catches from last week's episode and this week's episode. And I wish I could show you. I have them on my phone right now. I have, I think, like 10 screenshots of notes, and they're in like this tiny little font.
Oh my God. All right. Well, let's try to do the bigger ones from last week, and then, the ones from this week I want to hear.
So we're going to try and go through these. Thank you, Mike August. To further into the Poe story, this is from the episode of William Wilson. To go further into the Poe story, it was essentially about a man who does not accept blame for his actions. And there was a character named Reverend John Bransby who acquires the honor of being a doctor, like Valentin Narcisse. So there was a lot of Poe mentioned last week. That's just a little bit of history. Also, we knew he was going to bring up a catch about Leopold and Loeb.
Yep.
They were University of Chicago law students who were obsessed with the idea of committing the perfect crime. This is very interesting, especially because we have Willie, who's a college student, who's trying to get into crime. They spent 14 months plotting the murder of a 14-year-old boy, Bobby Franks, from every detail from his kidnapping to disposing of a body. They were notably the inspiration for Alfred Hitchcock's film Rope. So I think we're just kind of seeing, for me, that's a parallel to Willie, and obviously he has the parallel to the title. Also, references to Indians both happened this week and last week. Furthermore, Jillian was wearing white with the same color bed sheets to symbolize that she's being cleansed and becoming pure again. So I think he kind of thinks you're right, that she's going on the up and up.
I think so too.
She really is getting clean. Furthermore, sorry guys, give me one moment. Roy delivered two of the most important lines of the episode. One being, and for you guys don't remember Roy, Piggly Wiggly, Jillian's new beau. It's the secrets that undo us. And the other, we all carry our burdens. One of those burdens can regard Willie carrying the guilt for what happened at school. And that kind of proved true at this. So the key lines were, it's the secrets that undo us, and we all carry our burdens. And that's kind of a theme of the show, I think, in general. I'm wondering if I have like 3 more pages. So
can we at least hear about the Ragged Dick?
So you want to go...
And next week we'll do his catches.
Okay, we're going to go to one of this week's catches. We'll probably give you guys more next week on this episode. But let's see here. Give me one moment. We talked about Ragged Dick, which was the book that Nucky passed to Willie today. And do you understand? I have so much. He sent me so much. It's wonderful.
We may have to send you to the booth to do these, like Phil did on Breaking Bad.
I might have to do all of these every week.
The catches of the week in the booth.
That could be happening.
And we'll put them up separately.
Okay, so this is what he says. Interesting that Nucky gave Willie his copy of Ragged Dick. The book's main theme is about the rewards and honesty and hard work, as well as the lessons that respectability is earned.
Wow, so again, it's just that contradiction that we keep seeing. It's amazing.
Perfect. So I will give more of his catches from Old Ship of Zion next week's episode, so we'll have some more time.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so let's go to predictions.
I gave you my prediction.
No, you did. What are you talking about?
I did.
I love you turning into a 16-year-old. Okay, so next week is going to be Narcisse. The war is on between he and Chalky now.
Definitely. We saw some Richard.
We saw Richard just briefly. It's just always exciting.
Splash of Jillian. Ooh, I do have a prediction about George Mueller. Also known as Van Alten.
Yes, because we're going to see him, O'Banion, and Capone.
This was my prediction.
Go.
So, from next week, it kind of seems like he is about to be killed on both sides. O'Banion's kind of threatened by him. Has a gun to one side of his head. And Capone is threatened by him and has a gun to the other side of his head. So I think he's going to get a choice. And I think he's going to be smart about it and he makes a choice on whose side he wants to be, and he's going to try and get money out of it. We got that $1,000 for O'Banion's head, and I think that he's forced in that position because he's on danger on all sides. That's what I think about him.
I think you're right.
And I think he's going to win because we can't lose him.
No. Yeah, he's going to work with Capone, I think. Yeah, that's what I think too. And I don't know if by O'Banion next week, but I think that I think George Mueller goes to work with Capone. How Richard gets involved in this, I don't know, and I don't care. I'm just happy to see Richard next week.
It was a looming like presence. It was like I'm back. It seemed like I'm back in the game shot, not like I'm back kind of just to be a like father figure. It seemed like he was back in the gangster world.
You guys, thank you so much for listening. Next week, I'm sure Ebony and Bethany will be back. Thanks for bearing with the two of us. If you guys want to rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube,
That
you
was a
can.
5-star.
5-star rating. I don't want to promote asking Sarah out, but we have some fans who've been asking Sarah out. That's it. I think that's also nice. Why not?
They're gonna have to fill out an application and send it to my mother.
Send it to mommy?
She does all the
Yeah,
approvals.
she takes care of business. I like that. Okay.
No, I don't have any choice in this matter.
Please follow us at AfterBuzz. I'm at Undergaro. And Phil, anything else I'm missing?
I think that's it.
All right. Thanks, Phil, for bearing with us. And fans, thank you for bearing with us for us being a day late. Please
Sorry,
tune in
guys.
next week. And I guess
There'll
we'll.
be more of us. We'll be on Sunday.
Hopefully we'll all be
We'll
back.
Normal.
Hopefully we'll all be back to full power. But it's like Nucky said, we're low on everything right now.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later, Sara Stretton, Sara Stretton, Sara Stretton, Sara Stretton, Sara Stretton.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.